presents Vanna Speaks by Vanna White. What do you think of Vanna White?
Vanna's very pretty.
I think she's gorgeous.
I heard a really good joke about Vanna White last night.
Love her.
Well, I don't really know who Vanna White is.
I think she's fabulous.
I hear she's come a long way.
I think she's very sexy. She's pretty.
And I'd trade places with her in a second.
She's overrated. I don't understand why she's as popular as she is.
Very beautiful.
I'd like to spend a night with her.
I think she's hot.
More than a night.
Drives me crazy. Oh.
Wheel of Fortune fans send Vanna White everything from marriage proposals to invitations for watermelon festivals. She has captured the hearts and imaginations of the more than 43 million people who watch her daily on TV. As a cult sensation, she has taken the country by storm. And now, what the world's been waiting for, Vanna Speaks.
I bet you're wondering what Vanna White has to say. All of you see me on TV and you rarely hear me talk. Well, I do have a lot to say. I think I'm a mystery to everyone. I think that's why people are interested in me. Why me? Why all the success? Why Vanna Mania? I don't know why. I really don't. I turn letters on a game show for a living. And you're probably wondering how hard it is to turn letters on a game show. Well, it's hard. It's a lot harder than it looks. First of all, I have to know the entire alphabet. But there's more to it than that. There really is. I don't know why I've become so successful. It's a strange phenomenon.
The TV game show hostess was born on February 13th, 1957, in South Carolina, when her mother was just 21 years old. Weighing in at 6 pounds, 9 ounces, and measuring 18 inches long with a 12-inch chest, she was described in her baby book as having a head round as a ball with a turned-up nose. And she was named Vanna Marie.
And I know everyone's saying, is Vanna your real name? One of the most asked questions I get. Yes, Vanna is my real name. And where did it come from? It came from my grandmother's godchild. The A.A. Whirls lived next door to my grandmother. Their granddaughter was named Vanna. So when I came along, my mother decided to name me Vanna. And although Vanna Whirl was V-A-N-A, my mother added an extra N just to be different. So it's V-A-N-N-A. Whenever I think about my life and how I grew up, or whenever something important happens, good, bad, sad, happy, I think of my mother, Joan White. She made me what I am. My mother was a go-getter. She was never afraid of anything. She always went for what she wanted, and she taught me to do the same thing. My childhood was pretty normal. Wasn't boring, thanks to my mother, because she was so interesting, and she always entertained me, and she always looked over me and watched out for me and protected me, and I'll always love her for that.
Vanna's father, Herbert White, ran a drive-in restaurant a few hundred yards behind their house in the small town of North Myrtle Beach. Her mother worked the counter while her father minded the grill. Although her mother would let her get away with anything, her father ruled with a firm hand.
Of course, nobody's childhood is perfect, but mine was probably as good as it gets. I'm glad I grew up in a small town like that because I wasn't faced with the crime. We used to leave our keys in our car at night. Being small, everyone knew everyone, and everyone got along. North Myrtle Beach is a resort town. And in the wintertime, you could literally lay on the street for, I would say, 2 hours and never get run over by a car. That's how dead it was in the winter. When I think about my childhood and I look back and see all those things, the best description I can give is something Norman Rockwell would paint. And I still feel lucky I grew up as I did. I really do. No crime, not a care in the world, a lot of love, and a lot of fun. As a child, my brother and I got along terrific. We had a normal childhood. He had his tree house. I had my little playhouse, which I would make dinners for him, which would consist of bark from the trees, or grass would be the vegetable, and mix water in it, and had my little pots and pans there. And we spent days and hours and all our summers that way. Or we'd build forts, and we'd play army, and we'd play cowboys and Indians. I guess I went through a period when I was a tomboy. And then I discovered little high heels and mink coats and earrings and vanity things such as combs and brushes. And then I started getting into the female things. I enjoyed dressing up. I got my Barbie doll, and I became Barbie. I would play with my Barbie dolls day after day, and I had everything. I had the whole house. I had kitchen. I had her bedroom. I had a car for her. I had it all. And I would just dress her up and play with her, and I had Ken too. And looking back now, that's what I am. I'm a Barbie doll. I go to work. They dress me up. I'm just a Barbie doll. I think Pat even looks like Ken. If you look at the Barbie dolls, it's Pat Sajak and Vanna White are Ken and Barbie. We're living Ken and Barbie.
During her first year in school, Vanna developed two lifelong loves: friendly competition and boys.
I wanted to win everything I did. And what was my game? It was marbles. Every night I'd come home from school, and I would have my stock of marbles, and I would go through each of them carefully and pick out 10 or 15 that I might possibly have to lose. I was always pragmatic. Even back then, had everything organized, and I knew just how much I could win or lose and not feel bad about. And boys, for some reason, I always liked them, but I was always afraid of them, and I still am afraid of them. I had several boy friends that were just friends. Of course, I was too shy to even think about having a boyfriend, but they became good friends to me because I could always compete with them. I could always do the monkey bars or the maypoles with them. And I was very active and strong. I always wanted to be right in the middle of everything. So I got along well with boys. Boys, they've been in my life since the beginning, and they're still in my life now. We can't live with them, and we can't live without them.
It didn't take very long for Vanna to discover another interest: performing on stage and being the center of attention.
My first years at grammar school are something to remember. The most important thing I did that year was perform on stage with my class. And what did I play? I played a poinsettia, all dressed up in my green outfit with my red headpiece on. I was a great poinsettia. And what did I sing? It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And I didn't miss one word. I was a nervous wreck, but I made it through. And then in the second grade, I played a snowflake, where we sang Winter Wonderland. Oh, and not only did I perform in the first and second grade in the plays, I also was in a few beauty pageants. And guess what? I won! I was the queen of Ocean Drive Elementary. And doing all these things in grammar school, I just had this feeling, I want to do this. This was so exciting. It just got me going. Even at that young age, I loved performing. I loved being in front of people and acting and performing and just letting go of that energy, giving them a good feeling, hopefully. That's what I wanted to do. And seeing the expression in their eyes, looking back at me in my snowflake outfit, was great. It was great. It was a wonderful feeling.
Perseverance is a trait that Vanna has demonstrated throughout her life, and it began to show at a very young age.
When I learned to ride a bicycle, my father first gave me not a tricycle or not a small bike with training wheels on it. I had a bike that was twice the size of me, and I was determined to ride that bike that day. So I started out, I'd say about 9 in the morning, and I'm trying to ride this bike back and forth, falling down, getting all bruised. I could not balance that bike. All day long, I never stopped. I had blisters on my hands, on my feet, and bruises everywhere. And finally, right before dark, because I didn't have any choice. My father would not let me stay out after dark. I had to learn that day. So about 2 minutes before it was considered dark, I knew I had to do it, and I did it. Just like everything else I've done. I've always stuck with it. If I'm determined to do something, I'm going to do it. No matter how long it takes or what it takes, I'm going to do it if I say I'm going to do it.
Vanna also displayed a stubborn streak of independence as her early interest in performing developed into a determination to be on TV.
When I was about 9 or 10 is when I decided I wanted to be on TV. I watched a lot of TV at that age. My brother and I would sit on the sofa, and some of my favorite shows were Bewitched, I Love Lucy, Bonanza, and Dr. Kildare. And my favorite was Rat Patrol, which probably changed my life because my mother had a friend who was on there, Christopher George, and she would come and say, "Oh, your Uncle Chris is on TV." And just watching him, knowing that he was someone that my mother knew, I just said, I want to do that. I want to be on TV. That's really what I want to do. And since 10 years old, I haven't changed my mind. That's all I ever wanted to do from the moment I started watching that. I told everybody at school, I'm going to be a star. I'm going to grow up and be a star. And they're all laughing at me. Yeah, right, Vanna. I suppose it did seem sort of far-fetched back then, but it's what I wanted to do, and I went after it. I guess I got that determination from my mother.
By the time Vanna reached the 7th grade, she started paying more attention to her appearance, and she left her tomboy image behind.
When I started the 7th grade, I started noticing my appearance more. I was aware that here I am, I'm grown up. I'm going to have to look grown up. I started wearing little blue eyeshadow on my eyes and blush on my cheeks. Never wore foundation back then, face makeup. And my hair was kind of short and awkward, so I decided to let it grow out and get long and beautiful, which takes forever. And I was very aware of what I looked like. I'd always wear fingernail polish to match my outfit. If I wore a yellow outfit, I'd wear yellow fingernail polish. And that was a ritual I did day after day, changing my polish to green, blue, black, just everything. And that was an important thing to me back then. And I'll never forget us and our flat chests. I couldn't believe it. So we decided to order this Mark Eden bus developer that we'd seen advertised. So sure enough, we ordered it, and religiously night after night, we would do our exercises, just waiting for our chest to get bigger. Well, I was just a late developer, so I don't know if it worked or not. And I started making plans with boys. I knew during recess that a certain boy that I kind of liked, I knew where he would be at recess, so I would kind of make myself available or stand next to him without him realizing that what I was doing. And sure enough, every once in a while I got lucky and the guys would say hi, and then I would fall in love with them for about 2 weeks. Never go out on a date with them, but just sit next to them in class or talk to them during recess. And I was always so shy. I'd always put myself in the position where I wanted them to like me and ask me out, and then as soon as they asked me out, I would chicken out. Well, deep inside, I am shy. I'm a very shy person. I think all I ever wanted in a situation is for a guy to like me or for me to think that he likes me, and then I feel good about it. Because I was still too shy to go out. What would I do if I went out with them? They'd have to kiss me goodnight. I wasn't ready for that.
Vanna's life was going well. She was happy with her new appearance. Boys were noticing her, and she was fitting right in with school life. Then something unexpected happened.
My mother says, "I want to talk to you." So she sat me down in the living room. She had her cigarette going and her cup of coffee. And I was nervous. I didn't know what she was going to say. So instead of beating around the bush, she said, "Your father's not your real father." I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. I thought she was kidding me. And I just said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I was married to another man, and you were born, and your real father and I got divorced shortly after that. And then I met your father, and we married, and he adopted you. So your real name is Vanna White, but before that, your name was Vanna Rossich." And all the thoughts that were going through my mind were jumbled. And I couldn't believe it. Here was a man who I've known all my life as my father, who's not my father. And at 14 years old, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't upset. I was just confused because this was probably the first traumatic thing that ever happened to me. So she said, "Would you like to meet him?" And I thought about it. And I thought, yes, I would like to meet him. So my mother, my brother, and I got on a plane to New York to go see my real father. When we arrived there and I got off the plane, he was waiting for us. And it was just like looking in a mirror. I looked exactly like him. Same skin tone, just everything. It was very eerie to see this stranger who I'd never met in my life that was my real father, to see him. But it was a good feeling. I felt warm, and I felt almost like I knew him, although I didn't. Of course, I'm very close to my father, Herbert. But I have this other family that cares. I know that there's blood there, and there's something about blood that keeps you together. Although we don't talk that often, we write occasionally, and we speak on the phone. I feel close to them. I stay in touch with them, and it's almost like having two different families.
Vanna's trip to New York was highlighted by a tour of the NBC studios at Rockefeller Center.
I went to a television taping of Concentration, which is a game show hosted by Hugh Downs back then. It was my favorite game show at the time on TV, and I'd watched it at home. And it was amazing. Here I am sitting in the audience watching this game show that's going to be on television. The cameras pan up to the audience, and we're on TV. We're actually on TV, and I'm waving. I'm on TV. This was just great. Who would have ever thought back then that I would have been on a game show like I am today? They just seem to keep popping up, don't they? Game shows. But they're great. I love them. And it meant a lot to me. It really did. There was something about that game show, seeing it, being there, that stuck with me.
Vanna's teen years were idyllic. She was very busy and popular in high school. She was a cheerleader, president of the drama club, and a member of the National Honor Society.
When I was 16 years old, I got my first car, and I had to make a decision between this Opel GT or a Volkswagen. Well, I have to tell you, I decided on the Volkswagen, and you know why? Because my initials are VW. So that's why I made that decision. I couldn't decide. It's very hard for me to make decisions, even today, but that's why I chose the Volkswagen.
The time soon came for Vanna to make another decision. This time, it was a choice that would ultimately affect the rest of her life. The night before she graduated from high school, she sat down with her mother and had a real heart-to-heart talk.
We talked about everything. We weighed pros and cons about what to do, and she never made a decision for me. She said, "You have to make that decision." And she just talked openly to me. If you want to get married and have babies, I'm happy for you, and I would love for you to do that if that's what you want. If you want to continue your career and go to a modeling school and start acting and pursuing that, I'd like for you to do that too. She said, just remember, whatever you do, if in 10 years you look back and say, I regret that, I wish I would have done this, she said, I don't want you to say that. So I thought about it, and I knew I could always get married and have babies. And there was so much more out there. I'd never been away from home, lived away from home or anything, and this was my chance. I'm 18 years old, and I think I'm going to move away and just see if I like it, see what else is out there. And if I don't like it, I can come back and get married. So I made the decision to pursue my career. I always wanted to move to Hollywood, but instead of moving directly to Hollywood, being from a small town, I decided to move to a smaller city close to home, which I chose Atlanta, Georgia. So we started looking for modeling schools and checking them out, seeing which one would be the best for me, and we found one, Atlanta School of Fashion and Design.
For Vanna, going to modeling school did not provide the kind of learning experience that she was looking for.
When I attended the fashion college in Atlanta, I had attended the school to learn about modeling and acting or whatever, but actually it wasn't a school that taught me that. I don't recommend going to a modeling school. You have to get the experience from going out there. You just work. You have to work in front of the camera. That's the best way to get experience. You have to learn by doing it. That's the only way. It's the best way, and it's the greatest experience of all.
Once Vanna decided she wanted to be a model and a movie star, she put together a portfolio and began building her career in Atlanta. It was at this time that she decided to move in with her boyfriend, Gordy.
He was much older than I was, about 14 years. And here I am, 18 years old, never really experienced the world. And I meet this man who was debonair and wealthy and just, I almost thought of him as Rhett Butler. And I lived with him for several years, and then he wanted me to stay more at home and not model. And I had to make a decision. Do I want to continue on with my career again, or do I want to get married and have a family? And at the time, he had a family from a previous marriage. So anyway, our relationship started dying down, and I just thought it was a time for me to move on. And if we were right for each other, I would come back. So after I realized that Gordy and I were through, I decided I'm going to take the big step to Hollywood.
Vanna and a girlfriend set off for California in a rented U-Haul with all of their belongings. The truck was so big that her girlfriend's car fit in it. Although Vanna's friend didn't know how to drive a stick shift, she quickly learned. It was a cross-country adventure.
We ate Vienna sausage and crackers most of the way, and we slept in these dumps, I want to call them, because some of them were so disgusting and so dirty. It was scary. I just knew rats were going to come out, or cockroaches and all this stuff. It was really disgusting. But we did it. It didn't matter. In our mind, we're thinking, we're going to go to Hollywood. We're going to do it. Both of us had that dream. We always wanted to go to Hollywood. The trip was long, but made me grow more. It made me more ambitious. I just knew I was determined to make it. So we drove out, and much to our surprise, it wasn't exactly what we thought it was. I'm expecting Hollywood, glamour, this beautiful city. But it wasn't that way. It was just another big city.
Los Angeles. Thousands of young girls flock to L.A. each year in search of fame and fortune. But Vanna arrived sure that she would beat the odds.
After I got my feet on the ground and Los Angeles and got a job, and I knew that I could make ends meet, support myself. Then it was time to go check out the agencies. Since that's what I was there for, I wanted to be a movie star and model. I went to one of the biggest agencies in town, Nina Blanchard, and I had a great portfolio at that time, so I had my book. I was all ready. I go to Nina Blanchard. She sees me personally. I walk into her office, and I see all these wonderful pictures on the wall of these famous models on covers of magazines, and I'm all goo-goo-eyed thinking, this can be me. And I hand her my portfolio, and she opens it, and she starts going through it, telling me how fabulous these pictures are. And, of course, I had experience with modeling after doing it for so many years in Atlanta. So she goes through, and she's continuing on, just raving about this. And then she gets to the end of the book, my portfolio, and she says, how tall are you? I said, I'm 5'6". She slams my book shut, pushes it across the desk to me, and says, I'm sorry, we don't take anyone under 5'7". Well, from that day on, I grew an inch.
Unaccustomed to rejection, Vanna became depressed. She started gaining weight and began questioning her motives. As always, she turned to her mother for support and encouragement.
I would talk to her on the phone. I would write her letters. I would cry. I never cried on the phone to her because I didn't want her to know how bad it really was. I wanted her to think that I really was trying, and just by her talking to me gave me the strength to go on. And she was always behind me, and I always wanted to make her happy.
While Vanna's career in Los Angeles slowly began to pick up, her mother was fighting a recurring bout with cancer. Vanna's father called with the news, and Vanna was on the next plane home.
At this point, my mother and father were separated, so she was by herself. But my father was there for support, and my brother was also. It was hard on my brother. He had just gotten out of high school, and he couldn't handle it because he was very close to Mama, too. And he came around as often as he could, but the strength and pressure was put on me. But I knew I had to be the strong one and be behind her, just like she was behind me after all those years. She got so weak she couldn't take chemotherapy anymore. She couldn't do anything. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. After that, she wouldn't eat. She kept losing more weight, and I'd have to make her eat. I would sit there and hand feed her, but she never lost the will to live. She kept on trying to be strong. Although she was weak, she was losing her hair. She had lost so much weight and was so light that she couldn't walk anymore. I would literally pick her up and carry her to the bathroom. She stayed drugged all the time. She knew if she ever went to the hospital, that if she ever left that bed, that it would be over, and I knew that too. And then finally one night, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, she was resting, and I was laying next to her. The lights were out. Then all of a sudden, she started going into convulsions. I didn't know what to do. So the ambulance arrives, and they put her on the stretcher, and as we're leaving the house, I'm thinking, she's never going to come back. She's never going to come back here, and she knows it. And I just talked to her the whole way, telling her everything was going to be fine. She was going to be all right. So we got to the hospital, and then she started having more seizures, and the doctor told me that the cancer had reached her brain, that she probably was going to only have a few days to live. She would not sleep, because I know subconsciously she knew if she did, she'd never wake up. So she stayed awake for 2 days. The doctor said she has to go to sleep, but I'm telling you now, she probably won't wake up. And I didn't know if it was the right decision to make. Should I let her continue on and just die happy from total exhaustion, or turn up the dosage so she can sleep peacefully and just die in her sleep? So that's the decision that the doctor and I made. The doctor increased the dosage about 8:30 that evening, and finally she went to sleep. And it wasn't even a deep sleep. She laid there with this kind of smile on her face and her eyes almost not closed all the way. The nurses kept coming in, checking her vital statistics, and they kept lowering. So I just knew I knew it was going to happen sooner or later. Well, about 2:30 in the morning, she started gasping for air. There were longer pauses in between each one, and she would take a deep breath and let it out. And they got so far apart that I just knew that was the last one. I would say 45 seconds went by, and she had to take one more. And right before she did that, tears came down her face. And I'm sitting there right there holding her hand. Tears are rolling down her face, and she's asleep. She knows she's going to die right now. She knows it. And tears just came down her face, and it just broke my heart. And she died. And the second she died, her whole body, her whole soul just came right through me. It came right through me and gave me such strength and warmth, I can't tell you. And all that time that I had been holding everything in, never crying, it came out. And it only lasted for about a minute, because when she came through my body, I just felt great. And I just became strong from that moment, because I felt her. I knew that the second she left, she would always be with me. And I reached down shortly after that and grabbed her hand again after she was gone. And there was nothing there. She wasn't there. There was just a body there. She was gone.
Vanna went back to L.A., more determined than ever to make it. At a taping of Dance Fever, she ran into a friend who told her that Wheel of Fortune was looking for a new hostess. She knew right away she was perfect for the job, and she arranged an audition.
I went to NBC Studios where they tape Wheel of Fortune, and I auditioned along with several other girls. And they put us on tape. Then a few weeks went by, they called us back, and I made the call back. They narrowed it down to 2 girls, Vicky McCarty and me. Vicky just so happened to be a friend of mine. But she was just the opposite of me. I'm blonde with brown eyes. She's brunette with blue eyes. So here we both are. Which one of us is going to get the job? They put both of us on the air for a week each, and then Merv Griffin made the final decision. Thank you, Merv. I was selected. And I had no idea. It was the biggest surprise of my life. I did not think I had a chance. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. And Vicky was so polished and so wonderful. She was so confident about herself. And I was so nervous, because here I am thinking this would be the greatest job in the world. I turned letters on a game show. It was great. What a great thing to have a regular job after struggling and struggling. But I got it. I was so shocked. And the way it happened was the day before Thanksgiving. Nancy Jones called me. And I knew when she called that it was either going to be yes or no. And when she said yes, I must tell you, it was the best Thanksgiving I've ever had.
Wheel of Fortune has become the hottest game show in television history, and Vanna was instantly propelled into the limelight. Of course, the question she's now most frequently asked is, why is Wheel so successful?
All I can say is it's a fun, simple game that everyone of all ages can play and enjoy. You can be in the same room with your great-grandmother, competing against each other. I defy anyone to walk by with Wheel of Fortune on and then not solve the puzzle before they continue on. You have to solve that puzzle. What else is there to say? It's fun. We're all tired of seeing crime and all this stuff on TV. It gives us 30 minutes of fun and escape. It's a fantasy, but a real one.
When you watch Wheel of Fortune, it looks like a simple game show based on a children's puzzle. But in fact, taping the show is a complicated process involving many professionals.
When you see me on Wheel of Fortune, you probably think, oh, I'm so glamorous and beautiful and just dressed up, just looking just great. Well, I don't look like that when I first get to work. It takes them 2 hours to make me look like that. I go in about 2 o'clock in the afternoon with wet hair, no makeup, sweats and tennis shoes usually, and then the process begins. I sit down, my hairdresser rolls my hair, and while my hair is in hot rollers, I sit in the makeup artist chair, and Bruce Grayson, who is a dear friend of mine and my makeup artist, puts my vase on. And then I go back to hair, and I get my hair all pretty, and then I go to wardrobe, where I have 3 huge wardrobe closets of clothes, where the wardrobe lady, Florence, picks my clothes. I can't even get dressed by myself. Florence has to dress me, button me up in the back, zip me up, do all this stuff. So then I'm ready to go. 2 hours later, we start our first show, and I look like a Barbie doll. We tape our first show, usually in 30 minutes, and then we will have a 15-minute break so they can set up for the next show. During that 15 minutes, I change clothes again, change hairstyles, and Bruce touches up my makeup. So 15 minutes later, I'm ready to do another show. They call me a quick change artist.
Although most of the time the show goes off without a hitch, there are occasions when something unexpected happens.
The most embarrassing time for me on Wheel of Fortune was when I fell flat on my face. The guy had just won a brand new car in the bonus round. I was clapping so hard, I was so excited for him, I missed the last step as I was stepping off the puzzle board. Missed the last step, fell right on my face, and the sad thing is, you saw me fall, but you didn't see me land. You just saw me disappear behind the car. It was terrible. I was so embarrassed, and they couldn't stop taping me do it. So I jumped up, brushed myself off, walked over to the winner to congratulate him, and he said on national TV, "Did you have a nice trip?" I was so embarrassed.
Wheel of Fortune has generated a lot of curiosity, and Vanna receives a barrage of questions. For instance, does she get to keep the clothes she wears on the show?
First of all, I have to tell you, I don't get to keep any of my clothes. Rats. They're a lot of fun to wear, though. I do enjoy wearing them. What happens is we have 5 designers, clothing designers that I use on the show. They send their latest fashions to the studio. I wear their clothes, and then they're returned. And no, I don't necessarily like all the clothes I wear, but I'm wearing these clothes to please everybody, and just because I don't like something doesn't mean everybody else doesn't like it.
What is Pat Sajak really like?
Well, let me tell you, he's terrific. He is. He's professional, he's fun, he's witty. I can't imagine working on the show without him. We're a team, and no, we're not fooling around. He's taught me a lot. We have a lot of fun, and we just enjoy it tremendously. When you say Pat Sajak, you think of Vanna White. How could we work without each other? We can't. We're a team, and we're together, and I think people look at us as a brother and sister kind of a thing. They see some kind of chemistry between us, and it just relates to everyone in the country. We walk down the street. People pass us and say, "Hi, Pat. Hi, Vanna."
Is it boring doing the same thing every day?
I never get bored because there's always different puzzles. I'm wearing different clothes. There's different contestants. There's different prizes. Every show is like a new show to me. I never get tired or bored with it at all. I guess you could call me a cheerleader. That's what I do. And who would have ever thought when I was cheerleading in the 9th grade that I would still be cheerleading today?
Where do all the puzzles come from?
Well, we have a research person who looks up all the puzzles, Cheryl Jacobs. And oddly enough, Merv Griffin comes up with a lot of the puzzles. We'll be sitting in a restaurant, and the waiter will come up and say, "May I take your order?" He'll go, "Oh, good puzzle," and he'll write it down on a napkin. And he also has to approve every puzzle.
And how do you become a contestant on Wheel of Fortune?
Well, first you have to audition. You take a written test of fill in the blanks, just like you do on the show. Only about 10% of the people who audition for our show get on. If you do audition for our show, I have a couple of tips to throw in. One thing is, be sure and speak distinctly. That's very important because the puzzle board is about 40 feet away from you, and you need to just speak distinctly because your letters, you know how they sound alike, all the letters sound alike, T and V and whatever. So speak distinctly and speak loudly and clearly. Be sure and do that. And also just be yourself and have fun. That's what counts. They look for someone who's going to have a lot of fun out there. Just have a lot of fun out there and be yourself.
That's Vanna's advice. On camera, Vanna's life is an open book, but she has a personal off-camera life also.
I'm a normal person, first of all, but I'm a homey person, too, and very domestic and quite boring. I enjoy crocheting and watching TV and staying at home. I really do. I'm not this Hollywood star, whatever you may call it. I don't like going out to parties. I just like staying at home. That's why I've always had a man in my life. There's always been someone there that I can share my life with. That's why John and I got along so well, and I really was attracted to him from the second I saw him, although I didn't know him. I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I happened to be homesick. So I was watching the Merv Griffin show one afternoon, and here comes John on TV. I immediately fell in love with him physically because he was very attractive and nice. And when he started talking, it was just, this is a real person. This is somebody I like. He's not a typical Hollywood person. That stuck in my mind. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I went after him. I went looking for him. I thought, yep, this is the man I want in my life. I'm going to find him. And I did find him. So we started dating. We did everything together. We would drive down to the beach and take long walks on the beach and just do all those wonderful things, those romantic things and fun things. And we would go on trips. We'd take fishing trips back to Michigan to visit his parents. And that has to be a part of your life, along with the success of being on television and being in the public eye or being a Hollywood person. There has to be a balance between the two. So John was my balance.
John Gibson was a dancer at Chippendales and an actor, but he eventually became fed up with show business. It was then he discovered a new passion.
I never really liked flying. Never. But he loved it. He started out taking helicopter lessons, and he did very well. He was into the book, studying, and he really loved it. He got his license. Then he started flying fixed wing airplanes. He just loved it. He spent days, every day he would go up flying. He would get up and go to fly, and I would get up and go to work. And everything was just perfect in our life. I was on top of the world with work, and he loved what he was doing. Nothing was wrong. And then just what I thought would happen happened.
One day, Vanna went to work at NBC Studios, and John went flying. They had a party to go to that night, and when Vanna came home early, she decided to wait at a friend's house for John to get back.
Then all of a sudden, the newscaster came on and said, "Man killed in plane crash at Van Nuys Airport." My head immediately went to the TV, and I just knew from the second I heard that it was John. And my neighbor said, "Vanna, don't be ridiculous." I said, "Well, John's flying today. I don't know what to do." So I went to the phone, and I started calling Van Nuys Airport. The lines were busy. So I just felt very uncomfortable. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't think. I just knew it was John. I didn't know it was, but I just knew inside it was.
Disturbed, Vanna went home to get ready for the party. When the doorbell rang, a neighbor stood at her door.
He had this panicked look in his face, and he said, "Where's John?" And I said, "He's flying." "Why?" He said, "Because someone from the coroner's office just came over to my house to ask if John Gibson lived here." I couldn't stand up. I fell on the floor and just laid there shaking. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't believe it. There was a man killed, and they can't identify him because he was burnt beyond recognition. So my heart just lost it. This couldn't be John. And I'm very weak, and I'm on the floor, and I can't move, and the doorbell's ringing, and the phone's ringing, and I'm so confused. I just can't. I'm in shock. Like in shock. I wasn't crying. I wasn't feeling anything. So I'm still waiting for John to come through the door, and he doesn't come. He's not coming through the door. And we got the details on the death, and it was him. It took me a long time to stop looking at that front door waiting for John to walk through, but I finally realized that it did happen, and those first few days were so traumatic for me. I remember the next morning, I couldn't sleep all night, but right at dusk, I got up, I took John's bathrobe, put it on. I could still smell his scent on it, and I went out on my patio, and I sat in a big lounge chair and just started thinking about him and the singing of the birds and watching the sun come up. I felt very close to him, and he would never be there again. And it was just, I felt real close to him, smelling his scent next to me, but just thinking of all the wonderful times we had and what he meant to me and how much I really and truly loved this person. I loved him more than anything. And finally I went to sleep, and I had a dream, and it was John. He's standing there talking to me, saying, "Vanna, I'm fine. Everything is fine with me. I'm in the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. And I'm happy. I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. And I don't want you to suffer. I don't want my friends to suffer. And I don't want my mother and father to suffer. There's no reason for you to. I'm so happy." And it made me feel closer. Of course, it didn't help the pain, and it still doesn't today. I'm still dealing with this tragedy. When someone you love is taken away from you instantly, it's a lot different than dealing with a gradual death that you know someone's going to die. I still can't figure it out. After we had him cremated, John's father and I went to pick up the ashes, which were in a plastic urn. And the second we picked him up, I held him in my arms. I just held these ashes in this container right next to me. I felt so close to John. I knew that the best thing to do was to take his ashes and fly to his favorite spot when he flew and drop the ashes over the ocean. I couldn't do this, but a good friend of his that he flew with, Noel Blank, did this. And Noel and John's parents went up in the helicopter that John always flew and flew out to this beautiful place over the ocean. And that day it happened to be very foggy till they reached that spot that was John's favorite spot. It was so clear. There were no clouds around. There was nothing around. It was just beautiful. They hovered over the area, and John's father poured out the ashes into the ocean, and they said a prayer, and immediately porpoises started surfacing. Not just 2 or 3, a whole school of them. There were porpoises everywhere. And the day that they went up to put the ashes over the ocean, I sat out on the patio again. I'm sitting there with the sun coming down on me, and I felt it. I felt so close to him. And it was the exact same time that they dropped the ashes. It's just amazing what you go through when you deal with someone that you love that dies. The reality is it's something that you'll never get over. But it's another part of your life that makes you stronger, and it makes you appreciate life much more too.
Although Vanna has had to cope with her share of personal tragedy, she's also had to learn to cope with the effects of her newly found celebrity status. How has Vanna's life changed?
There's so many things that have happened in my life at this point that almost don't seem real. Being on The Tonight Show, being on the covers of all these magazines. It really is fun to walk in a grocery store and there I am on the cover of Newsweek. I look at it and I say, that's me, but I'm still the same person. I don't feel like I've changed at all. I wake up with the birds in the morning. I go to sleep with the crickets at night. I still love chicken and dumplings and grits and all those wonderful things, and that doesn't change. It's just that there's my face everywhere, and I really don't relate to it. I think it's great and it's fun and I enjoy it, but I don't really see this star or celebrity. Gosh, I'm a lucky person. I really am. I'm very happy, and I've worked hard for it. And is this what it's all about? I guess it is what it's all about. It's not as easy as it looks, being on all the time. I mean, what happens if I'm in a bad mood? You know, what am I going to do? Frown when somebody comes up to me, just say, get lost? No, you have to be nice. And most of the time I am. Very rarely do I ever get upset or mad.
There are times, however, when fame and stardom are not very nice. Vanna's advice is to trust your instincts and do what you feel is right. She knows well, because the situation happened to her.
I was asked to do this modeling job with lingerie, which I thought that'll be fine. Everyone's seen everyone in bras and panties, and it's no big deal. And they were offering me a lot of money, and at the time, I didn't really want to do it, but I did it because I couldn't pay the rent. I had $32 in my checking account, and that's all the money I had. I could not pay the rent. I didn't know what to do. This job was offered to me, and I thought, well, I'll do it. So I took the job, and when they came, I decided I wanted to do it at my house, which was unusual, but I just felt more comfortable doing it there than a studio. So the photographer came over with the lingerie, which was not very much, and it wasn't bras and panties. It was see-through, sheer things that I didn't want to do, but I thought, I have to pay my rent. I don't want to ask my father for it. I came out here by myself. I have to do this. And I felt very uncomfortable, but I had made a commitment to do it, so I did it. And from the second he took that first shot to the second he took the last one, I was uncomfortable and sad, and I felt awful about myself. How could I do this? But it's only lingerie. I'm not taking my clothes off. I was fully dressed in lingerie, but you could see through it. So the shots were done. I paid the rent, and that's what counted at that time. This was shortly after I moved out here. And I thought that was the end of it. Then I became famous. The photographer who had taken these shots decided he's going to get rich and famous himself. He took these shots to Penthouse and Playboy and offered them to both of them, and of course, whichever paid the most money, he was going to give them to. And Hugh Hefner is a personal friend of mine, and he saw a lot of danger here. Penthouse could really destroy me, and Playboy can destroy me too. But Hef, being a friend, decided, I'm going to buy these shots. I'm glad he bought them on one hand, but then on the other, here is my friend who owns these shots of me, And what's going to happen? What happens if he publishes them in his magazine? How do I call him my friend? That hurts me. That hurts me so much. Not the fact that I'm going to lose a job or a million people's going to hate my guts because I did something a long time ago that I didn't mean to do, that there's nothing I can do about it now. I have to live up to it, and I will live up to it because I did it. And I'm not saying I'm proud of it because I'm not. So what I'm trying to say is exploitation does come with the territory. And remember, there's always someone around the corner that's ready to exploit you in some way or another. Any way they can, they're ready. And we don't need that. Come on, we're people here. We're human beings. And these things hurt our lives. So just go with your heart in the first place. Do what your first instinct tells you to do.
So far, Vanna's instincts have led her to Hollywood, to fame and fortune, and to all the things that little girls dream of. But what's ahead for Vanna White?
Although it seems like things have happened overnight, they haven't. I've gone through many, many struggles in my life and rejection and frustration. Everything has good things and everything has bad things, and show business is one of them. You see most of the good things, you don't always see the bad things, but it's all a balance. What's going to happen after Wheel of Fortune? I don't know. Here I am sitting on top of the world. I can't stay up here on this pinnacle. I'm gonna come down. I know I am, and it's scary. It's very scary. I don't know what tomorrow holds. But I do know that I want to be involved in television, in front of the camera, because I just enjoy giving people a good feeling. And I'm just going to be myself. I don't know if people are going to accept me in a Joan Collins role. I can play one, though. I think doing a dramatic role would be a challenge for me. No one has seen me do anything like that, but I think it would be fun. And it's almost a fantasy to play a different character than myself. I'd like to do it. I'd love to do a Woody Allen film. I think Woody Allen is terrific, and that's probably my ultimate goal when it comes to show business.
And what about Vanna's personal life?
And I also want to get married and have babies and raise them and do all that good stuff, too. What I look for in a man more than anything is a great sense of humor. That's very important. And I also look for a gentleman, someone who is going to love me and treat me like a lady, open up to me and be a part of me. And be a real person. I don't need any phony people in my life. And I don't want any. I just want somebody real and fun, a great sense of humor. Blonde, brunette, redhead. Now that you've heard the real me speak, I hope I'm not quite as much of a mystery to you. Everything that I've said is really sincere, and this story of mine that I've been telling you all has a reason. If you have a dream or a goal in life, you should go for it. Don't let anything interfere with it. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it can happen because it did happen to me. And I'm here to tell you that it's terrific, and I feel good about everything in my life, good and bad. Follow your heart and be happy. Go for it.
You've been listening to Vanna Speaks by Vanna White. We invite you to send us your comments on this program, and we'd like to send you the latest edition of our free catalog. Just write to us at the address on the label of this cassette.